the pound buying $1.21 and €1.09. LBC weather, rain dying away for most tonight, except over parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and the far northwest of England. A low of 6. Tomorrow, a mix of sunshine and showers, especially across Wales and the west, with a high of 22 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lisa Aziz.
This is LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation, the Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, Jeremy Corbyn today has been out, and I'm going to say on the campaign trail, because in effect, I think that's what it really is. He's been in the East Midlands, speaking today, and of course, he's putting himself up to be the potential interim Prime Minister. He's saying that, he's the leader of the opposition, he's the person that should unite all the Remain forces in Parliament. And he said today that as and when that general election happens, it will be of huge political magnitude.
A general election triggered by the Tory Brexit crisis will be a crossroads for our country. It will be a once-in-a-generation chance for a real change of direction, potentially on the scale of 1945. Let's be very clear. We will do everything necessary to stop a disastrous no deal for which this government has no mandate. I will bring a vote of no confidence in the government, and if we're successful, would seek to form a time-limited caretaker administration to avert no deal and call an immediate general election so that people can decide our country's future.
Well, that was Jeremy Corbyn, and sounding, he wants to avoid a no deal. A no deal sounds like a total and utter disaster. I have to say that what he was talking about today were things of huge political magnitude. Whether it is comparable, whether a general election this autumn would be comparable in terms of change of direction to Clement Attlee winning in 1945, and of course mass nationalisation of British industries, the completion of the welfare state, or indeed of 1979 when Margaret Thatcher came in and dismantled much of that nationalisation. Whether it would be of that significance or not, I don't know. But it's all based around him saying he wants to stop a no-deal Brexit. And I don't know about you, whether you heard or saw Jeremy Corbyn today, but it all, to me, seemed a little bit flat. And I'll tell you why I say that, because here's Jeremy Corbyn speaking in Ireland back in 2009 about the European Union.
If you succeed in getting a no vote here, that will be such a boost to people like us all over Europe that do not want to live in a European empire of the 21st century.
I'm with you, Jeremy.
Now, I'm pleased you're having a referendum. I wish we were having a referendum in Britain. I obviously hope and believe that the Irish people will vote no in October, but don't scrap your posters, don't recycle them, because you're going to need them for a third referendum. Because I've just got a feeling they're going to keep on voting until they get the answer they want. I remember that day, just like Thomas, when the last Irish referendum result came through in the British Parliament, ministers started saying, we're going to have to look again at this. Hang on, what business of the British Parliament is it how the Irish people decide to vote, And under the terms of the Lisbon Treaty, Europe will become subservient to the wishes of NATO and the aims of NATO. We are creating for ourselves here one massive great Frankenstein which will damage all of us in the long run. What it does is creates this military machine, this military Frankenstein, which will be so damaging to all of us.
So the EU's a Frankenstein, it's a monstrosity. Come on, Irish people, get out there and vote against it in your referendum. And if you listen to that clip, it's said with humour, it's said with very good audience engagement, and it's said with huge passion. Yet today, when he says, I will do whatever it takes to stop a no-deal Brexit, I mean, it all sounds a bit flat. It sounds like he doesn't really mean it. And yet, he has the effrontery to call Boris Johnson Britain's Trump, the fake populist and phony outsider. Well, if anybody is being fake and being phony, surely it's the man who spent 33 years in Parliament opposing every single European treaty and now has been pushed by his own party, and the Labour Party is now an all-out Remain party. And when he says that the general election will be as important as 1945 or 1979, well, I'll tell you what the difference is. I don't think anybody doubted the absolute sincerity of Clement Attlee to push through a statist, socialist agenda. I don't think anybody doubted in 1979, when Mrs Thatcher came to power, that she wanted to dismantle the big state and go for free market economics. Whether you agree or disagree with Attlee or Thatcher is irrelevant. They were sincere in what they said to the electorate and their intentions for government. But with a Labour leader putting himself up as an interim Prime Minister and believing that he can win a general election this year, who has been a Brexiteer for the whole of his life, who now says, albeit sotto voce, that he'll do anything he can to stop a no-deal Brexit, I'm asking you very simply, do you trust Jeremy Corbyn? And if you think the words today were spoken with absolute sincerity, he's a changed man and will be a great leader, call 0345 6060 973. Or maybe you think the truth of it is, he really is a Brexiteer, but he's got no choice. He's saying it, he's going through the motions, he's being frankly dishonest with himself and to the public. Text to 84850 and tell me, trust. This is the issue, isn't it? A breakdown of trust. Indeed, in many ways, that's what the Brexit result was all about back in 2016. Has he broken faith with you? Please tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. And of course, you can watch us on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And of course, you can comment there as well. Listening to that Corbyn rant proves that you can't trust him, says Don. Well, Don, the rant I think you're referring to was in 2009, but at least it was believable. You knew when he said that was the heart and soul of the man. I didn't get any of that today. In fact, I thought, just looking at him on the platform, it was almost a bit tired, a bit listless, going through the motions. And the reason is, what he was saying today is not what he actually believes in his heart. That is certainly my thought on it. Nigel, I thought the Brexit vote was a once-in-a-generation vote to change the direction of the country. Why does Corbyn want to introduce another one when we've been denied the first one? Alan in Whitstable, it's a good question. Let's go to Alex, who's calling from Dartford and is a new caller to the show. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Nigel. I was just going to say I don't really agree with Jeremy Corbyn's politics, but I think he's trying to do the best for his country in the way that no deal was never mentioned on the ballot paper. And I just
well, nor was any deal mentioned on the ballot paper, Alex.
No, but we were promised to leave with a better deal than what we got. Something.
Well, absolutely. Well, Alex, I think no deal is far better than the deal we've currently got.
And what about the leaked government paper that got leaked yesterday?
Well, it's a civil...
saying there will be a catastrophe. I was listening to the Sheila Fogarty show. A doctor rang in saying that no deal, they won't be able to get the medicines in, and then people will die as a direct consequence of a no deal.
What utter, Alex,
Jeremy
it's
Corbyn's
tosh.
trying to do the best for his country.
It's tosh. The idea, this idea that the freight that goes in and out of Dover between us and the continent, whether it's, on a ship or through the channel, could reduce by 50%. This is scaremongering at a level. Surely, Alex, you don't believe any of that, do you?
Well, it's hard evidence in front of you. How can you class that as scaremongering?
Where's the evidence, Alex?
Well, like the CBI, the value of the pound has gone down by 15%.
Okay. Well, the value of the pound did fall very.
National Haulage Association, NSU.
Yep. So, Alex, these are mainly the same people who told us if we didn't join the euro, it would be economically ruinous. They're the same people who told us if we just dared to vote Brexit, we were told 500,000 jobs would go immediately, a total of 800,000 jobs would go. They've been wrong before, they're going to be wrong again. But you take the view that Corbyn is doing this and saying these things in the national interest. But given, Alex, that he's been a Brexiteer for 33 years in Parliament, is it really believable coming from him?
I'm not sure. No, I don't think it is coming
No,
from him.
well, that's the point. That's the point. I mean, look, you and I may disagree on Brexit, and that's fine. But he's talking about becoming an interim Prime Minister, winning a general election, changing the direction of the country. And the argument, Alex, I'm putting to you is that you can't trust him because it's pretty clear he doesn't really mean it. That's my feeling. Alex, you still there? No, I've lost him. OK, no problem. Listening to that Corbyn speech proves you cannot trust him. Corbyn has thrown his principles in the bin and used Brexit to try and get into power. He can't be trusted, says Andrew from Congleton, and quite a few of you on that line. Rob is calling from Manchester. Good evening, Rob.
Hey, good evening, Nigel. You all right?
I am all right. I think Corbyn's still a Brexiteer at heart, Rob. What do you think?
To be quite frank with you, I don't trust the man. I don't trust the man as far as I can throw him. Yeah, he might be a Brexiteer. I don't know. I mean, I think basically what he wants power at all costs, but he doesn't want power through the ballot box. He wants to seize power as in some sort of guerrilla coup, in my opinion. I don't trust the man. Never liked him. Don't trust him.
But I mean, would you be tempted, Rob, or have you in the past voted Labour?
No, I've never voted Labour at all.
No. Well, you know, I get that, Rob, but I and thank you for the call, but I'm particularly keen to hear from those who have been Labour voters and who have been Corbyn supporters directly. Maybe you joined the Labour Party for £3 because Jeremy Corbyn had the prospect of taking over. You're the ones I really want to hear from. Now, it's my first day back, midweek day back from holiday. And I had to collect a new passport. Now, some may remember, in the referendum campaign, in every single media appearance, I held up my passport, making the point that the first two words on it were European Union. And this is very much what I objected to. Well, today I went to the passport office, and I'm going to show those of you watching this on live stream will be able to see it. Those listening won't. But I went today to the passport office and I've got my new passport, and there it is. The words European Union have been removed. It simply says the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And that says to me, the Brexiteers are winning. Hooray! I'm delighted. I'm pleased to be back at work. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 6:15 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Jeremy Corbyn says Labour will offer voters the chance to remain in the European Union if there's a general election in the autumn triggered by the Brexit crisis. Police in Northern Ireland say a deliberate attempt was made to murder officers as a bomb went off in County Fermanagh this morning. More than 9,000 people are having to leave their homes on the island of Gran Canaria because of an out-of-control wildfire spreading across thousands of acres. LBC weather, rain dying away for most tonight except over parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and the far northwest of England, a low of 6 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Louise Knight, and the anti-clockwise M25 slow from just after Leatherhead at 9 towards a lorry that's broken down between Godstone at 6 and Clackett's Lane services. A van's broken down on the clockwise side at South Mims at 23. That's blocking one lane and causing queues. There are a couple of issues for the A127 this evening. Firstly, the A127 and the A12 are slow towards the Gallows Corner flyover. It's shut for repairs until 8 o'clock this evening. And then the A127 is crawling out of town from the M25 to an accident at Halfway House. On the trains, London North Eastern, Thameslink and Great Northern, all warning of 15-minute delays at King's Cross, and on the Tube, just minor delays now on the Victoria line.
This is LBC.
Oh no. 1 kebab, 4 cabs, 3 karaoke booths.
But really?
You can't always recall what you spent on a night out, but you could map the location of those transactions on our mobile banking app. Feel in control every day. Lloyds Bank, by your side. Not available for every transaction. T's and C's apply.
LBC.
Some things are just so confusing, like alternative milks. What do social influencers do? And why is fake news even a thing? Get past the confusion with the Confused.com Beat Your Car Renewal Quote Guarantee. If you can't beat your renewal quote on a like-for-like basis, you'll get the difference plus £20. Tell us what confuses you and enter to win £1,000 at lbc.co.uk. Don't be confused. Be Confused.com.
Join me, James O'Brien, for my new podcast series, Full Disclosure. This week I'm speaking to the author of This Is Going to Hurt, Adam Kay.
The last time you were in hospital, you probably couldn't count the number of different nationalities you encountered. And that's one of the best things about the NHS.
Listen and subscribe now on the LBC app or Global Player.
It was a Sunday morning when I jumped on the tube.
And decided to pop down to Greenwich via
a large indoor jungle.
And when I got there, I was captivated by a sparkling
scary dinosaur just standing there right in front of me.
So off we went to Wembley Park
to look at the colourful fish.
Tap into the wonderful world of Off-Peak London. Travel in zones 2 to 6 for £1.50. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
£1.50 is an adult off-peak pay-as-you-go fare for a journey not going via Zone 1 on Tube, DLR and most London Overground services. Always touch in and out with the same card or device to pay the right fare.
Summer's finally here. And at the BMW Summer event, we're celebrating with a wide range of models available to drive away today. So your perfect BMW couldn't be closer. Search BMW Summer Event or visit your local BMW centre before the end of August to find your perfect BMW and explore our range of tailored finance options. BMW UK Limited is a credit broker, not a lender. BMW Finance is subject to status for UK customers over 18 only. Guarantees may be required. T's and C's apply.
Is 2019 the most confusing year ever? Fake lips, speaking fake news, eating fake meat. Let's put it to a vote. After vote, after vote. But are we being listened to by our home devices?
No.
They don't have the answer. Get past the confusion with the Confused.com Beat Your Renewal Quote Guarantee. If you can't beat your renewal quote, you get the difference plus £20. Don't be confused. Be Confused.com. T's and C's online, single annual policies only.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
So Jeremy Corbyn wants a second referendum. Jeremy Corbyn says he retains the right to campaign for Remain. Jeremy Corbyn says today he will do anything to stop a no-deal Brexit. This the same Jeremy Corbyn who just a few short years ago called the EU a military Frankenstein and voted against every single EU treaty throughout his entire career. Can you really trust someone like that to be Prime Minister and to, as he says, if he wins a general election at some point this year, be a transformative leader on the scale of 1945 or 1979. Trevor from Norfolk says, that recording from 2009 that you played earlier was classic. I hope the BBC play it, not a cat's chance in hell. We all know Corbyn is anti-EU, but he wants the key to number 10. And there are lots of you saying that Corbyn has changed his position cynically because he thinks that gets him closer to number 10. But an SMS that comes in here that makes a very interesting point says, Corbyn's always been a Eurosceptic but changed his mind just before the referendum, just like Boris Johnson. This goes to show you can't trust Corbyn and you can't trust Boris. And the point on Boris is a good one, that Boris, of course, had never been a Brexiteer, ever. And then at the last minute came out supporting Brexit, having, we're told, written 2 articles, one in favour of remaining, one in favour of leaving. And, of course, the other thing about Boris is that having called Mrs May's deal the new European treaty, having said that it would lead us into effectively becoming a slave state, then at the third time of asking, voted for it. But now, of course, he says, do or die. We will leave with no deal if that is what we have to do. So, perhaps it's a fair point that people do change their minds, whether that's genuine or for political advantage. Perhaps you make your own minds up. But to me, the really telling thing about Corbyn is the passion with which he talked against the European Union. And now when he speaks in favour of stopping a no-deal Brexit and saying he'll do anything to ensure that outcome, I just don't hear the sincerity. I think it's difficult to trust him. But you tell me I'm wrong on 0345 6060 973. I'm going to speak to Scott from Tower Hamlets. Scott, is Jeremy Corbyn a genuine convert to the pro-EU cause?
Hi. I think he's doing it tactically. I used to be a branch secretary for the Labour Party and quit in disgust about 7 or 8 years ago.
Right.
But
and what made you quit, Scott? Scott, what made you quit?
I just realised that it wasn't in my interest anymore, or the people that I knew. You see, I realised that they wanted to actually undermine and eventually destroy many of the things that actually I cherish about this country.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted social justice and things like that, and, you know, a fairer tax system and this sort of thing. But they were cynically using immigration to essentially create a permanent voter bloc for themselves.
Do you really believe that, Scott? Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that Blair opened the door to millions more people so more would vote Labour?
Yes, exactly. And what they do is the relationship that they had with the BNP was almost symbiotic in that they would use the menace of this phantom BNP to get these people to vote Labour, and they would always emphasise the threat of the so-called far right, just to bind this voter group to them, and it was just wrong. And getting to the point about Jeremy Corbyn,
Scott, whether they designed this or not, I don't know, but it's certainly true that a very much bigger proportion of migrants to the UK who get UK citizenship vote Labour than Tory. That is true. But on Corbyn himself, Scott, you know, you've obviously been, a long-time Labour. Well, you were, activist supporter. I mean, Corbyn was always on the Bennite wing, wasn't he?
Well, he was, but you see, his far left point of view, they've got many other things on their bucket list that they want to achieve.
Uh-huh.
So the Queen will die while he's Prime Minister, if he had a full term, and there won't be a coronation. There'll probably be a plebiscite on whether or not we should have Charles as head of state or somebody else. They would do all sorts. They will get rid of the army. They will cut out the whole top level of the army. They'll transform the police so that it had a political sort of commissars embedded within it to ensure.
Well, Scott. I mean, I don't think they're going to get rid of the army, but they might reduce it. I don't know. But Scott,
he said he wants to.
Yes, in an ideal world, there would be no military, is what Corbyn has said. Scott, you're saying then actually he's got bigger fish to fry than Brexit.
Yes.
Fine, and he will
do it eventually.
So he's doing this. He's doing this cynically, in your view.
Yes.
Is he trustworthy,
to get
Scott?
Power at all costs.
Is he trustworthy?
I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him.
Okay. Scott, that's great. I thank you. Michelle says, Remainers and Corbyn seem to be suffering from selective memory loss. Did Mrs May not declare dozens of times, no deal is better than a bad deal? Yes, Michelle, she did, over and over and over. And you know what? She never actually meant it. Barnier said not once in the negotiations did the British team actually put that on the table, and she never triggered the necessary legislation to fully repeal the 1972 European Communities Act. Do you know, I've got a feeling that history will look back on Theresa May and have some very, very harsh words to say about her. Let's go to Mark, who's a new caller from Spalding in Lincolnshire. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Nigel. Thank you very much for having me on.
Not a bit.
I thought I'd say that I think Corbyn, whilst you might disagree, will actually be able to unite Parliament by managing to stop no-deal Brexit. And I think he's correct in trying to do that.
Do you?
Because contrary to what you might say, we actually never, in fact, did vote for no deal in 2016.
No, but Jeremy Corbyn did in 2017. Now, and here's a point, Mark, that I think is being lost in all of this, and I made it yesterday sitting here, but somebody today on Twitter, Veritas on Twitter, says Corbyn voted to support Article 50, which states the UK leaves the EU after 2 years with no deal unless an agreement has been reached. And isn't this the point, Mark? 498 MPs voted for us to leave on March the 29th with or without a deal. Aren't they being a bit dishonest?
No, I think it's being dishonest more in saying that if you say, and certain members of the British public say, that you voted for no deal when you voted to leave in 2016, I personally think you're lying to yourself. I think why did 500 MPs, Mark? Why did 500 MPs vote for no deal, including Jeremy Corbyn? But he didn't vote for no deal.
He did. He voted for us to leave.
The deal through.
No. Jeremy Corbyn voted with 500 MPs for us to leave with or without a deal. It's pretty simple, isn't it?
That was on the premise that at the time Theresa May was always going to go hell for leather to try and get a deal with the European Union.
Yes, and if we didn't get a deal, but Mark, if we didn't get a deal, we put it into UK law that we'd leave without one.
Yes, but you've got to say, on the premise, those people in Parliament, the 498, only voted for Article 50 on the basis that all the British public in the 2017 election had already come up and already said, yes, we all want to ensure that you try and get a deal that is best for the public. Nobody voted for no deal, Nigel.
Actually, Mrs May's election manifesto said no deal's better than a bad deal. Mark,
we only got 42% of the vote, and everybody else got more than that. Combined. Okay, she didn't get a majority.
British politics, Mark, doesn't work like that. You know that. Under first past the post.
Of course I do.
Look, Tony Blair got 35% of the vote back in 2005 and still had a big majority. And there's lots and lots I could debate with you about our electoral system and its imperfections. But so Jeremy Corbyn. Mark, the point I'm making is this: Jeremy Corbyn has been a lifelong Brexiteer. Does it actually sound sincere and genuine to you today when he says he'll do anything he can to stop a no deal?
Yes, of course, because we have all seen by the government's own projections that have come out, which yourself and even Boris has called fear-mongering when it's the government's own report.
That's what I call it, tosh.
Yeah, it's the government's own report.
No, it's not. It's produced by the Remain Civil Service, Mark, isn't it?
Oh, come on, Nigel. That's just conspiracy theory.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Yes, it is. Come on.
Mark, let me ask you, Mark. Do you think that leaving the European Union could lead to a 50% reduction in trade with Europe?
50%? Okay, fair enough.
Hang on. You quoted the reports at me, so I'm just asking you. Do you agree with it?
Yeah, but there's a possibility, isn't there, Nigel?
But isn't it amazing? Aren't you amazed, Mark?
This crazy project of yours, all to put so many people's jobs at risk.
How is it, Mark? You tell me. It must be a miracle. How do we deal with this business with China and America when we have got no trade deal with them? How does it happen, Mark?
How does it happen, sorry? What do you mean?
Well, if you and I went to Southampton now, or Felixstowe, we would see container vessels coming in that, when you look at them from the ground, almost look like blocks of flats. Some of them have got 20,000 containers on them, and they're coming in to our ports with goods manufactured in China to be sold in the United Kingdom, and all of that without a trade deal. I tell you what, Mark, there isn't some little fella checking the contents of every one of those containers. It operates through the Trusted Trader Scheme. Mark, it's all just fear-mongering.
But come on, you need to... Obviously, you've looked at the WTO Brexit, which clearly you never wanted really anyway, because at the time you said that we wanted to be like Norway in 2050. Mark, like Norway were part of the single market and customs union.
I spent 25 years... No, I never wanted to be part of the customs union. You must be joking. I spent 25 years...
single market.
No, I never wanted that. Never wanted that.
Yes, you did.
No, but I did.
You wanted to be like Norway.
No, I didn't. I said they were in a better position than us, but we could do much better than that. They're a country of 5 million. We're a country of 66 million. Mark, the point is this. I always wanted a free trade deal, a simple FTA, never membership of the customs union or single market, but the British Prime Minister didn't ask for it. We're running out of time, and so I think WTO is the only thing we can do. Talking of running out of time, I'm way over time. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:31 on Time for the News with Lisa Aziz.
Jeremy Corbyn says Labour will offer voters the chance to remain in the European Union if there's a general election in the autumn triggered by the Brexit crisis. He also says he'll do everything necessary to prevent a no-deal outcome and call a no-confidence motion in the government when Parliament reconvenes next month. Senior police in Northern Ireland say dissident Republicans attempted to lure officers and army personnel to their deaths with an explosion this morning. It happened in County Fermanagh. No one's been injured. Ireland's Prime Minister Leo Varadkar says he strongly condemns the actions of those responsible. The UK's biggest pub group and brewer, Green King, has agreed a £2.7 billion sale to Hong Kong real estate giant CKA. The Suffolk-based company has more than 2,500 pubs, restaurants and hotels across the country and employs around 38,000 staff. LBC weather, rain dying away for most tonight except over parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and the far northwest of England, a low of 6 degrees.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, weekday mornings from 7, LBC.
Jihadi Jack, the UK-Canadian man who joined IS, has his British citizenship revoked. His parents are angry. I say it's the right call. Emma Beales is an expert on the area of Syria.
We should be putting him on trial. We should be collecting the evidence.
How are you going to get the evidence? This isn't Milton Keynes. This is Syria.
There isn't actually a big process being made of trying to bring them to trial. It's not just about Jack Blitz. It's about some of the others who are in the same situation.
But how are we going to get any concrete proof? You will never get level of evidence required to satisfy a UK court. So what do you do then? Put him out on licence and we just monitor him for the rest of his life?
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Xero, get your business digital ready with Xero accounting software.
LBC.
You know their names. Now, find out who they are. Listen to Full Disclosure with James O'Brien, an insightful podcast featuring rare, candid conversations with the biggest names in politics, entertainment, and sport. And while James gives you a look into their lives, keep an eye on yours with Blink, wireless home security cameras you can monitor on your smartphone. Full Disclosure with James O'Brien. New episodes every Monday, thanks to Blink home security cameras.
Oh no. 1 kebab, 4 cabs, 3 karaoke booths.
What, really?
You can't always recall what you spent on a night out, but you could map the location of those transactions on our mobile banking app. Feel in control every day. Lloyds Bank, by your side. Not available for every transaction. T's and C's apply.
I'm sorry. You have progressive memory loss.
When you hear these words, the outlook is bleak, but we're working to change that. We're Recognition Health, the brain and mind experts, and we're running clinical studies in London and Guildford. If you volunteer, you'll receive free access to a new generation medication as well as comprehensive medical care. With your help, we can change the future of MCI, as in mild cognitive impairment and Alzheimer's disease.
You have progressive memory loss. But here's what we can do.
To find out more about Recognition Health and taking part, go to brainandmindexperts.com.
We spoke to Nigel and Paulette from Lincoln about BT's Complete Wi-Fi.
The boys' bedrooms are both in the attic. They do a lot of gaming, they do a lot of streaming.
Yeah.
They get the same strength of signal now in the attic that we get downstairs.
It was always dropping out, and we don't have that now. The children still get frustrated when they lose at things, but that's completely different.
Nigel, Paulette and the boys are 4 more happy BT customers with complete Wi-Fi that guarantees a Wi-Fi signal in every room.
Up to 3 discs to guarantee Wi-Fi or £20 off your bill. Terms apply.
Do cars have feelings? This recording may prove conclusive.
My boot is big, my space is plentiful, but how rude of me, I forgot to tell you my name, Fiat Tipo. Hello, I am a giver, not a taker, so now you can have me for £4,110 less, and I wasn't much before. Maybe I will see you soon. If £4,110 less makes you think more of me, that would be nice.
Fiat Tipo Easy available from £10,795 OTR after customer saving. Offer valid until 30/09 and registered by 31/12. T&Cs apply.
So, your accountant does your audit for you, looks at your accounts, calculates your tax, stuff like that. But would you benefit from long-term advice, an expert to look at your business model and help your business grow? And most importantly, someone to look after you, the owner. At Barnes Rofe, our partners get to know their clients and want to become part of their team. Is it time to see what we can do for you? Arrange your free consultation at barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe, Clever accountants for business.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC, The Nigel Farage Show.
And there I was, thrilled that I've got my new British passport without European Union written on it, and Maureen on Facebook wants to spoil my day by asking, was your passport made in the EU, Nigel? I don't know, Maureen, but probably under EU procurement directives. No doubt it was outsourced and done somewhere else. We're talking about Corbyn. We're talking about how do you trust a man who's been an avowed Eurosceptic for years after years, giving barnstorming speeches about the European Union, called it a Frankenstein, and now says he'll do anything to stop a no-deal Brexit, campaign for a second referendum, and maybe support Remain. Linda on Facebook says, yes, I would trust Corbyn. It's Johnson and the Tory party I don't trust. Phil on Twitter says, I wouldn't trust Corbyn to recycle my rubbish. Well, Gary's even more cynical on Twitter. He says, one thing for certain, I won't trust any politician ever again. But before we go back to, do you trust Jeremy Corbyn, I want to talk about Greenland. Now, why is it called Greenland? Well, it's called Greenland because when the Vikings discovered it, there wasn't much snow. It was during what we now know as the medieval warm period. And a little bit of history about Greenland that you probably don't know. But Greenland was the first member state of the European community to withdraw and leave. They left back in the late 1980s. They did so because they've got lots of fish around Greenland, and they did not want the European fleets getting their hands on them. They joined, of course, as part of Greater Denmark, a Danish protectorate, and they were the first country to leave. Well, I was going to say the EU. It was actually the EC when they left it. So the question of sovereignty and governance in Greenland has always been a huge, huge issue. More so now than ever, as Donald Trump has confirmed that the United States is interested in buying Greenland. Now, you heard the story. Trump wants to buy Greenland, and I wonder whether it was fake news. It's not fake news. It's real. And the president thinks he can persuade those in Greenland and Denmark to change their minds. Here's Trump on Greenland.
Well, Greenland, I don't know, it got released somehow. It's just something we talked about. Denmark essentially owns it. We're very good allies with Denmark. We protect Denmark like we protect large portions of the world. So the concept came up, and I said certainly strategically it's interesting, and we'd be interested, but we'll talk to them a little bit. It's not number one on the burner, I can tell you that. Essentially, it's a large real estate deal. A lot of things could be done. It's hurting Denmark very badly because they're losing almost $700 million a year carrying. So they carry it at a great loss. And strategically for the United States, it would be nice.
This is not as unusual as you may think. As the USA grew and developed, they did buy parts of real estate, as Donald Trump calls it, so they have been used to the concept of buying property. This would be the biggest real estate deal in terms of purchasing a country in history. The island's foreign ministry have said, we're open for business but not for sale. Why is America interested? Well, of course, they have for decades had bases there, missile bases there, radar bases there, and America's interested primarily from a military strategic point of view. I don't think it's going to happen in a hurry, but it is a fascinating story. Andrew is a new caller from Hemel Hempstead. Andrew, tell me, do you think Corbyn is being sincere in the things that he's saying today? Do you trust him?
Hi, Nigel. Nice to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
Yes, I do think Jeremy Corbyn's being sincere. I know that on a personal level he is very much a Eurosceptic,
right?
But he's also very much a Democrat, and he's really just following through on what has been Labour Party policy since the last conference, which is to oppose any Brexit that will be a threat to, or that's perceived as being a threat to jobs, working conditions, etc. And so that's why he's going all out to oppose the no-deal Brexit.
Okay, but Andrew, when you talk about democracy, what about the referendum people voted in 2016? What about the people that voted for the Labour Party in 2017 when they said in the manifesto they would honour the Brexit result? What about the fact that Corbyn and nearly all of the Labour MPs voted for Article 50, which said we would leave with no deal and we couldn't find a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, how is it now democratic because a Labour Party conference has a different point of view?
Right, what I really meant was he's not the dictator of the Labour Party. The Labour Party is a democratic party and it formulates its policies democratically. Mm-hmm. And so Jeremy's beholden to that policy and he needs to
yes.
be the
No.
man for that.
That I understand. I mean, frankly, I think he's been hijacked on this issue by his own parliamentary party and many of his activists. And it's, there are huge splits in the country, Andrew, of course, because as you no doubt well know, there are lots of Labour voters in Wales, the Midlands and the North who are in fact very Eurosceptic. But, so, OK, he's been corralled, and it's Keir Starmer and Diane Abbott and Tom Watson.
Well, I mean, it's more a case of party policy formulated by members, not just by the PLP, and that's what happened at the last conference. That policy was ratified, whereby the Labour Party was to oppose any Brexit, like a no-deal Brexit, that would be seen as a threat to jobs. Then, if possible, a general election would be the goal, and that's what he's going for, and failing that, then a people's vote. So he's just following through on that policy.
But does it sound sincere? Does it sound genuine? Does it sound trustworthy?
No, I don't think he's a Brexiter, but I think he's sincerely doing what he sees as his role as leader of the Labour Party, which is to try and get Labour Party policy enacted, and that's what he's doing. I mean, it may be that if Labour were to win the next general election, if there is a general election later in the year, Labour Party policy might be to try and go for a Brexit, that involves being in the customs union, which isn't a favourite option for the Labour Party.
Which isn't Brexit.
Well, it's leaving the EU, and that's all that was on the ballot paper, as you're fond of saying yourself.
So just try and cheat the people, yeah? Keep them stuck to EU rules.
But the people voted to leave the EU, so to leave the EU and be in a customs union...
Not to be stuck... They didn't vote to be stuck in a customs union, Andrew, did they?
Well, they didn't vote for no deal either. I don't think...
Well, they did!
Most people had in mind.
But, Andrew, you tell me, why did 498 MPs, including Corbyn and most of the Labour Party, vote for no deal, and now they're reneging?
Well, they didn't vote for no deal. They voted to trigger Article 50, thinking that in 2 years, even the Conservative Party could probably cobble together a reasonable deal.
The wording of Article 50 was quite explicit and clear, wasn't it? That you leave with or without a deal.
But I think to say that was voting for a no deal is stretching it.
Really?
They were voting to trigger Article 50 because that's what the referendum result was, but they would have expected a deal to be put together within those 2 years. Most people expected a deal
was put together, and it was rejected.
Well, because Mrs. May decided to... what she should have done, in my opinion, that was such a close vote, the referendum.
Really? It's a massive margin, 1.4 million votes.
48% to 52%. And the logical thing to do would have been to say, OK, we come out of the EU, stay in the single market, maybe 10 years down the line we can have another vote about whether to leave that. But instead she went for relatively hard Brexit, leave the EU, leave the single market, leave the customs union. And there was no way Parliament was going to go for that. And so we're at the impasse we're at now. And possibly a general election is the only way we can sort that out. That might not sort it out either.
And if we do get a general election... And if Jeremy Corbyn becomes Prime Minister, would it, in your view, be, as he stated today, a transformative event, such as the elections of 1945 and 79?
Possibly not as transformative as that. But I think it'll be,
well, that, Andrew, will be a relief to many, I think, who are listening, and perhaps others will be disappointed. Andrew, thank you for your perspective and your point of view. And Andrew's saying, look, he's just doing what the Labour Party has told him to do. But it still doesn't ring true to me. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:45 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Jeremy Corbyn says Labour will offer voters the chance to remain in the EU if there's a general election in the autumn triggered by the Brexit crisis. Police in Northern Ireland say a deliberate attempt was made to murder officers as a bomb went off in County Fermanagh this morning. More than 9,000 people are having to leave their homes on the island of Gran Canaria because of an out-of-control wildfire spreading across thousands of acres. LBC weather, rain dying away for most tonight except over parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and the far northwest of England, a low of 6 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm J-Louise Knight, and there's just been another accident on the clockwise M25 at junction 29 for the A127. That's the second accident on that stretch this afternoon. It's closing 2 lanes with delays already. Anti-clockwise, it's slow in patches from Leatherhead at 9 to a broken down lorry after Godstone at junction 6. A van has broken down on the clockwise side at 23 for South Mims. That's closing 1 lane and causing some queues. And the A127 is still struggling out of town from the M25 to an accident at Halfway House. On the trains, because of a points failure at King's Cross, London North Eastern, Thameslink and Great Northern all still warning of 15-minute delays. And on the Tube, there are minor delays on the Victoria line.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Clive Bull.
UK will end freedom of movement at the end of October. Will you be affected? How fragile is the peace in Northern Ireland? Plus, first, the News Hour.
Clive Bull on LBC.
50 years ago, we made a remarkable moment in history when man landed and walked on the moon for the first time. It's amazing what we can do when we think beyond limits. That's why Vodafone are giving small businesses what they need to discover their full potential with their new unlimited 5G data plans. Plus, with the OneNet virtual landline, you can be online anywhere. Go beyond limits and see what your business can achieve. Search Vodafone Business Unlimited.
William, Pamela and Anthony were sold investments by banks and ended up losing money. Luckily, they contacted Goodwin Barrett and were able to claim back a total of £65,500. If you've lost money on an investment sold by a bank, even if you no longer have it or the paperwork, just text SOLD to 66777 to discover how much you could be owed. That's SOLD to 66777. You don't need a claims management company to make a complaint, and if unsuccessful, you can refer it free to the Financial Ombudsman.
The toughest jobs, or the easy ones, the long journeys or the shorter runs, transporting the big, carrying the small, an iconic van that does it all, negotiating traffic or the open road, handling load after load after load. A project started, a job concluded, with 3 years roadside assistance and 2 free services included. The Volkswagen Transporter for just £259 a month on contract hire. Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles, working with you. Business users only, no ownership, excluding VAT at 20%, 48-month contract hire, £1,554 initial rental. Exclusions, restrictions and T's and C's apply. Service plan covers first 2 consecutive services. Available until the 30th of September 2019. Volkswagen Finance.
If your boiler needs replacing, listen to this. Right now, LS1 Boiler Installation could install a brand new fuel-efficient Worcester Bosch boiler with £250 off. What's more, there's 0 deposit to pay up front and 0% interest-free finance. Thinking of a new boiler? Think LS1 Boiler Installation. Get an instant quote at ls1boilerinstallation.co.uk. Conditions apply.
Meg, the driving instructor, is definitely almost 90% sure she's filing her VAT right. Kinda. But she'd be more confident with QuickBooks. QuickBooks is perfect for making tax digital and is HMRC recognised. Get up to 50% off your first 6 months. And maybe put it towards a new clutch.
Making tax digital means monthly VAT returns are changing too. Are you ready for the 7th of September? Visit quickbooks.co.uk for details. QuickBooks, backing you.
My mum can't remember my first steps. She can't remember walking me to my first day at school, or watching me walk down the aisle. She doesn't even remember I'm her daughter. But I do. That's why I'm walking the Alzheimer's Society Memory Walk for my mum. Join me to help defeat dementia. Sign up at memorywalk.org.uk. Who will you walk for? memorywalk.org.uk.
Oh no. 1 kebab, 4 cabs, 3 karaoke booths.
What, really?
You can't always recall what you spent on a night out, but you could map the location of those transactions on our mobile banking app. Feel in control every day. Lloyds Bank, by your side. Not available for every transaction. T's and C's apply.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
So Donald Trump wants to buy Greenland, and somebody says to me here on Twitter, Donald Trump also likes Scotland. Just saying. Don't worry, please do not call from Scotland. That was intended as a joke. I do also wonder on Greenland whether one of the reasons Trump is doing this is to stop the further spread of Chinese influence, because that is the big geopolitical battle that's going on in the world today. Now, when I was in Australia last week, I did make some comments. I mean, albeit it was after dinner and I thought it was private, but hey, that's life. And I did say that I thought Prince Harry was much more popular in this country when he was a Jack the Lad and went out drinking, and he was a soldier and he'd more than done his bit in Afghanistan. And I felt that since his marriage, his change to becoming an eco-warrior made him a rather less attractive and popular figure. And goodness me, I got some abuse for that. Well, today, Sir Elton John has confirmed that it was him who paid for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to fly to and from his £15 million mansion in Nice by private jet. And there's been a huge hypocrisy row because it's the fourth trip from them on a private jet over the course of the last 11 days, leading Labour MP Theresa Pearce to say the public do not want to be lectured on climate change by those who don't follow their own advice. They project themselves as eco-warriors. Well, I tell you what, I mean, Theresa Pearce, she's really having a crack at them. Please, can you all just shout at Theresa Pearce and not me next time? But I have to say, look, it's up to Harry how he lives his life and what he does, but the newspapers really, really gunning for them, and I can't see that stopping in a hurry. Back to Mr. Corbyn. Is he trustworthy? Is he genuine? Is he doing, as our caller said before the break, the bidding of the Labour Party? But if he is, surely it's not what he really believes himself. I don't find that very trustworthy. Hugh is a new caller from Leamington Spa. Good evening, Hugh.
Hello, Nigel. I've tried to get through many times, and I've got through to others, but not to yourself.
Well, now you have, and welcome.
And my honour.
Very good. So come on, tell us, is Corbyn trustworthy on this issue?
Absolutely not.
Right.
I can't believe... I've never seen someone try to exploit the naivety and the... not ignorance, well, all right, it probably is ignorance of history as much as he is doing now. Because as a 50-plus-year-old, I can remember the 70s and all of the strikes, and it doesn't matter what government is in. If any union power comes back to the Labour Party, we are stuffed.
Well, they are funded, Hugh. I forget the latest figures, but I certainly can say with confidence that over 80% of the Labour Party's income comes from the trade union movement. Exactly.
Now, forgive me for being naive in my middle age, okay, but I got banned from Twitter a couple of years ago for having a rant.
Oh, dear.
Because I got sick and tired of people banging on about partisan politics and how it was a Tory Brexit and a Labour Remain and all the rest of it. And it was not true. It was fabricated. Look at all the Labour Party voters. Greatest of respect to them, understood their problem at their level, in their environs. They wanted to get out. Now, Jeremy Corbyn is a man who has stuck to his guns and has had great integrity over the years. Over the last 4 decades, he's had great integrity, be it C&D, Greenland Common, be it pretty much anything else. He stuck to something. All right, I think it's a lost cause, and so on, but he stuck to it. And unfortunately now, I do believe that he's given in to what essentially is an elitist pressure. The Labour Party's overrun with elitists.
Well, it's got there is a certain North London bias, it would appear, wouldn't it, in the shadow cabinet and elsewhere.
I had a lot of respect for John Prescott, and I still do. All right, he was pressured by his good lady wife into taking his peerage, but, you know, as you would. But the thing is, Labour now is not an honest Labour. It's backed by money, a lot of money.
But
normally that will come from an elitist source.
But Hugh, they seem to think that by becoming a Remain party, it will improve their electoral prospects. Do you think?
It will, immensely.
Will it?
Because the elitist agenda and the elitist power in this country is immense.
Hugh, I'm not convinced. I think it'll do them huge harm, and here's why. In South Wales, the Midlands, and indeed in the north of England, areas where there are quite a lot of marginal seats, Those constituencies voted overwhelmingly to leave, and I think Corbyn and the Labour Party have moved themselves a long way away from them. Hugh, I thank you. Dev in Leeds sends me a text. I love you, Dev. He says, we need another vote in Parliament on Article 50 as it's becoming clear they didn't know what they were voting for. I love that. That's the best text I've had in a very, very long time. And to conclude this debate on whether Corbyn is trustworthy or not, and look, you know, I disagree with Jeremy Corbyn on many, many things political, but I'd always seen him as being sincere. Now, with this complete 180-degree change on EU policy, I don't see him as being sincere at all. I'm going to leave the last word on this subject to Alexei, who is calling from Coventry. Good evening to you.
Hi, Nigel. Thanks so much for taking my call. Yes, I'm 22 years old. I voted for Jeremy Corbyn in the last election.
Right.
And I also voted for Brexit. And one of the reasons that I voted for Jeremy Corbyn is because, apart from him being a very anti-establishment candidate, I felt he had a very good track record on being on opposing the EU. So basically, the main point that I wanted to get across is that this is an absolute betrayal, because your last caller was saying that he reckons this will help the Labour Party, but I don't think a politician being insincere will ever really truly work.
No, because
to me, this is a complete betrayal. I'm definitely not going to be voting for Jeremy Corbyn again, because he's shown that he's not strong enough to stand up to the cookie cutter Labour establishment that are trying to force him into this particular position.
Yeah, I mean, Alexei, the point I was making earlier was that, you know, he talks about big transformative elections. He talked about 45 and 79. And Attlee and Thatcher were utterly sincere in what they were trying to do, whether you agree or not. And here we've got Corbyn, you know, standing up and saying stuff, Alexei, that he himself clearly doesn't believe in.
Well, exactly. And so how am I supposed to vote for someone who stands up and says what they don't believe in? It's ridiculous. I'm going to have to vote elsewhere, you know.
And are you still a paid-up member of the Labour Party?
Oh, no, I was never a member of the Labour Party.
Right, OK, no. But you were a supporter of Corbyn, you like the look of him, and you're now...
Yes, I was a supporter of Corbyn, not so much of the, you know, as I said, what I refer to as the cookie cutter Labour establishment. But I was very much, I liked the idea that Corbyn seemed to be a person of principle. You know, he had a good track record, a very long and consistent track record on the EU, but now he's shown that he's not strong enough to... I still think he believes... what he always believed, but I don't think he's strong enough to stand up to...
That's the point.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that, which is why he does not look sincere. Alexei, thank you. Now, if you want to see what's missing from my brand new passport, then go to @LBC on Twitter. You'll be happy or sad, depending on your view on Brexit. They've taken off the European Union. Hooray! I'm off to celebrate. You've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show. I'm back tomorrow at 6, at 10 tonight. It's Tom Swarbrick, but up next... it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you. And coming up between now and 10, the UK will end freedom of movement at the end of October. Does this change of policy concern you? Will you be affected by it? And what new system should replace it? Also, police are calling for political progress after a bomb attack near the Northern Ireland border. How fragile is the peace in Northern Ireland? And what